Kia ora everybody, you're tuning into Dr. Burst from Tamaki Makaurau and Aotearoa. For those tuning in for the first time, this video is part of a public activation called the Avondale Pavilion project. Each month we get a different writer and or artist on board to repaint the pavilion structure in the heart of Avondale at Avondale Art Park. We're surrounded by a local legal wall, and the idea is to update the pavilion every couple of weeks, capture the artist painting in real time, and we pair that video with a conversation with the artist. In this month's video, we sit down with my good friend Ikarus DTR from Christchurch. With graffiti at the heart of his practice, it was a pleasure to witness him paint a homage to the roots of graph in this iteration of the pavilion. A couple of years ago, we recorded a real-time web series episode and covered off a range of different topics, so it's great to be able to sit down with you again and have a chat. To kick things off, could you let us know who you are and where you come from?
My name's Nick. I write Ikarus from DTR crew from Christchurch, New Zealand.
So let's start with the pavilion. Could you let our audience know what your concept was behind what you painted?
The way I approached it was, you told me about it a few months ago. Every time I tried to think about what I was going to do on it, my brain shut down and wouldn't really think about anything because the structure is super weird and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And then 2 or 3 days ago, I realized I was actually going to be here and I needed to know what was going on. So I watched almost every one of the other episodes and just at first was just trying to get the size of the space and stuff and figure out what was going to work on it. Watching all of them and seeing everyone else's different takes on it sort of helped with that. And I think I just wanted to pretty much represent a traditional graffiti style of stuff. And the shape of the pavilion itself kind of looked a lot like skate park architecture, maybe the posts looking kind of like lamp posts and stuff, or like a weird sort of industrial sculpture sort of shape. So that kind of led me into the idea of doing a bunch of layered up tags and throw ups and letter outlines and stuff like that, and then just putting a few characters over the top of it, and then basically stripped back the color palette a lot so that it just didn't look like chaos and super hectic, and just kept it mainly the teal tones on one face, and then during the day we actually changed the plan, and I changed the plan a little bit and did the color transitioning kind of thing around the different sides.
For people that don't know or understand your concept of layering up the pavilion with graffiti, what is the significance of a tag?
I guess it's the foundation for everything, it's the first and foremost step. Before anyone was doing large scale murals and the new wave, or even before anyone was doing traditional subway pieces, graffiti pieces, people were going out and just writing one color, their name. So it's basically the foundation of graffiti, and sort of the first step in what can turn out to be a really long path.
Why do you think the aesthetic or ideologies or kind of visual language of graffiti, bombing and things like that kind of appeal to younger people?
Different reasons. One reason being that I know there's a lot of younger dudes I know that would love to be doing big pieces, big walls, crazy stuff like that, but it's so expensive these days. The paint people use, if you're going out and racking some paint, which obviously is harder than it used to be anyway, but all the good quality paint is in stores where it's not easily accessible, so kids are having to buy paint. So obviously even if you want to paint a fairly basic piece, you're going to need minimum 3, 4, 5 cans and upwards, and so at $10 to $15 a can, that's a pretty hard task. Like I was saying, I painted that quick gold fill with Swim the day before, and I went and bought some paint for the first time in ages, and it cost me $70, and we just did a couple of shitty piles, and I look at it as not the $70 that's a problem, but when I look at it, I'm that wasn't necessarily worth $70. The final product, the fun hanging out with Mike and just painting and talking shit, that's worth $70, but the thing that we actually painted, he stepped back at the end and he goes, well, that's a couple of sweet piles we did there, bro. And I went, that's actually we don't even use that word in Christchurch, but that's totally the word I would use to describe what we did, Yeah, and that's one of the reasons. Another thing, obviously, is there's just kids that want to do. I was saying when I was a teenager, as a kid, I couldn't wait to be a teenager and just be able to run wild and do whatever I wanted. So graffiti and bombing, the bombing side of it, there's a freedom and rebellious aspect, I think, obviously, that's always really appealing to teenagers, you know, like especially to teenagers, and obviously to
men.
Yeah, I was going to say, and obviously to grown men and grown women all around the world. But yeah, I think that aspect of it is also like a big factor. Is the fun and the freedom and the rebelliousness and the naughtiness. You know, like I said, there's a bunch of kids that, you know, just want to do naughty shit. Like I was a little bit like that myself.
Why do you think the general public tend to dislike graffiti?
I mean, it's fair. For one, that don't understand it, so it's just a bunch of pointless scribbling on walls to a lot of people, you know, which is, you know, it's a fair assessment if you don't understand it. And then obviously the vandalism and destructive side of it, and the damage to public and private property, I guess, is definitely something. Even back when I was still just, before I painted pieces or did anything like that and was just like a kid that tagged on the streets, I learned pretty early that I sort of wouldn't tag on people. I was like the guy that wouldn't tag on fences or like people's cars, or I would try and tag on council shit and businesses. And, you know, like, I mean, it's a dumb distinction to the average person. They're like, what difference does that make? But one of the reasons was, like, I hung out with and knew a lot of gangsters, and one of them in particular used to love the excuse, you tagged on my grandma's fence, to just punch some, you know, other guy. And he used to do that to a bunch of people. And like, I remember stopping him from doing it to one of my mates one day and laughing and saying, like, bro, if that's a real thing, like, I'm going to tag your grandma's fence because that shit's a fame spot. I've seen you punch at least 6 or 7 people for that same reason. But also, aside from that, I don't know why, but I realized at one point, if you had a completely neutral person who felt neither here nor there about vandalism, because some people don't care, some people like it, some people hate it, but if you have someone that just doesn't care, they're neutral, but you tag on their fence, then you probably just create an enemy for graffiti as a whole right there and then. So like, even as a kid that was just still out there tagging, like, I'd kind of made that distinction and realized that in itself, once someone considers themselves to be a victim, and I guess that's another thing, is a lot of people consider themselves a victim of graffiti as soon as their fence is tagged or their business is tagged or some property that they feel attached to. Once that happens to them, then they feel affected by it. So it gives a larger range of people like a personal vendetta or problem with graffiti. I know fucking taggers. How many taggers have you ever known that get upset when their fence gets tagged? Like, I can understand if homie knows it's your house and they've come and tagged on your house and they knew it. But if it's just somebody that it's just another tagger who tagged a fence or a door of, you know, oh, this so-and-so tagged my work. So what? You know, so what? You've tagged a ton of shit. And, you know, like, I know dudes that have caused tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage, and then they have a cry about it when someone tags their fence or their house and want to do something. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
with you being located in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, what do you think is the kind of council's attitude towards graffiti? Has that changed much over time compared to now?
It's definitely improved. Definitely better than where it was at, and that has to do with some of the people that are in those positions now. They've got some younger, more in line with youth culture. So there's in Christchurch we have a graffiti projects coordinator at the city council. So her role, she isn't what we used to have as an anti-graffiti office, but also she's the person that if someone was to call the council and say, oh, I've got a space that I'm looking to get some artwork done, do you know anyone? She's got kind of a list of different artists around the city, including us and some of the other guys that do commission work at home, and she'll send out stuff like that. She's put money towards running workshops with some of the youth and stuff like that. Like recently I was speaking to her, and a kid that I've been working with for a few years, just like, I know his dad, and we've, you know, been taking him out painting since he was like kind of 8 years old. Now he's around sort of 13, 14. He's been getting arrested here and there. He's been out getting caught tagging. And she said, like, you know, what's happening with him? You know, and I said, I actually haven't seen that kid for a couple of years. And so, you know, like, but she said, oh, well, do you think, like, if I get some money together, like, you know, maybe you could run a workshop with him and like some of his friends, and like sort of just try and steer him back onto the, you know, just in the better direction. Because she especially, Karen, her name is, I'm sure she won't mind me name dropping her because it's all positive things I have to say about her, but yeah, she particularly, like, not only is actually quite a fan of a lot of the artwork, she sees the positive side of what it can do for people. So I think in the past, a lot of the councils attitude has been graffiti's vandalism, kids, people, teenagers, adults who commit these acts of vandalism are criminals and they should be treated as such. Whereas now I think there's more of an understanding that like these kids, yes, they might be doing that, but it may be part of a larger thing, and if they see the potential and the energy, you know, they're actually like reasonably on board with supporting that, you know. So like I say, yeah, they've funded a couple of workshops we've done. We had the hip hop summit down in Christchurch recently, and they put some money towards the graffiti, you know, us doing a wall for the hip hop summit. So yeah, they're actually like, they're pretty supportive and are doing like a bunch of pretty good work now. Obviously they still have to do the other shit, you know, like that's just nature of the beast. Like they have to do database, they have to have be showing some sort of records for their funding. But some of the areas that they're supporting now, like they're supporting areas that are positive, whereas before I think it was a lot of what you'd call like reactive measures instead of like proactive solutions. So now they're more on board with the idea of, yes, this kid did, you know, this kid vandalized something, committed willful damage or whatever the charge is, but also like how much of that energy that this kid had can be redirected in a positive way, or into a positive space.
It's through that lived experience that makes you relatable, right?
Yeah, and it's a very different thing, I think, for someone who looks like me, for someone who looks like you. We obviously part of the culture. Obviously we're getting older now, but the dress sense is still fairly the same between like our generation and that generation. It's a lot different than someone turning up in dress pants and a shirt and saying, believe in yourself, kids, you can do anything. You know, anything you set your mind to. Like I did a bunch of life skills courses and stuff like that as a kid, but like it was all just fucking nonsense, you know. It's just blah blah blah. There's no like practical, this is how you do it. It's just believe in yourself, learn how to budget, and then they give you some shitty job option, you know, like we're going to send you for a job interview at this furniture reupholsterer, or I'm going to send you for a job interview at Kmart. And it's just like, what? Whereas now there's really like, oh, you guys know of us, you know our backgrounds, you know how we came up, and you really see that this thing is a possible thing. Like I was saying to some of the guys that came down earlier, I had fucking no idea that any of this was like any of it was going anywhere. I didn't know that we were all going to be in our late 20s and 30s and 40s and shit one day, you know. Like I didn't really see very far past the weekend.
So at 41 years of age now, are you operating as a full-time artist, writer, or business owner, or what do you kind of do? Like, what does the life of Ikarus look like?
I reckon it probably looks pretty lazy, with flurries of like hectic activity. So it'll be a couple of weeks of like getting to do nothing, and then a bunch of work. But as far as full-time artist, I think to a large extent, whether I was making any money or not, like I've been a full-time artist for like 10 years, you know, like I haven't had a regular job. I mean, I've hardly had regular jobs in my life. Like I worked at Project Legit and I worked at a paintball place for a while, and those are literally the only two real jobs I ever had. I think 10 or 12 years ago, like I was sort of saying, you know, like, oh yeah, I do art, and we're doing like small jobs here and there, but I guess like 10 or 12 years ago is where I never had a job, but I also stopped getting the dole. Like I stopped getting a benefit, because I really hated it when people would say, what will you do? And I'd be like, oh, I do art and I paint, yeah. And then they would say, oh, you're on the dole. And then, you know, when you go like, yeah, well, I am on the dole as well. Plus getting off the dole made me have to like kind of grind a little bit harder, and make sure there's money, you know, like there's money there, which, you know, obviously often there just wasn't. But over the last 10 years or so, or the last like 8, 9, you know, like it's been getting sort of stepping up busier and busier. Like the last couple of years we've had quite a hectic amount. I think Decipher coming back from LA and having such a like wide skill set of things that he's able to paint, and his whole attitude to painting as well. His attitude is like he always wants to push himself. Like we do jobs, he designs shit that's super hard, and we spend a couple of weeks painting it with like all of us talking about how hard he is, but he will never not do that, you know, because then I'll go, well bro, you could easily pitch a simpler idea, you could strip this back and you could make this, and we could cartoon version this, and we wouldn't have to do super technical over here. But he's just like, yeah, but like we'll do it. we should do it, because he wants it to be hard. Like, he wants to, like, I've never necessarily been that dude to be pushing myself. I'm not really the, like, I'm going to go out and try all these new things. And like I was saying to you earlier, suddenly I turned around and it's 10 years later, and my boys have all upskilled their technical skill level and their like painting ability, this crazy level, and I've just like kind of gotten cleaner lines and like, you know, like there's just like graffiti things that I've learned to do. Yeah, so yeah, it's a weird mix of like old me and new me.
Love it, bro. And speaking of all of these projects that you've been involved with, what would you say are maybe 2 or 3 of, you know, most memorable achievements or milestones that you've done with, you know, within graffiti? What's kind of the things that come to mind?
There's a particular wall I remember painting. So when it had moved past the just tagging stage and like just bombing and like just painting pieces, we'd sort of got into painting pieces and backgrounds, themes. But I never used to like matching colours and wearing a uniform. I wasn't really a fan of it. But there's one wall in particular we did that I remember Decipher. I didn't have any paint, so Decipher had supplied all my paint for my piece, but said like, yeah, we're matching colours. And I remember standing back from it around the 2006, 2007 time frame, standing back from a few of the walls we were doing in that period. There's like a Ninja Turtle wall we did, and then this Black Book wall and a Mad Scientist one, all from around the same era, that I really remember standing back from being like, fuck, I can't believe I was even part of that. Like, I didn't paint any of the characters or the realism or the super, but even like me painting a piece that could even hang on a wall like that, I was like, yo, that's fucking crazy. I think one of the biggest and the craziest things was that show, the Rise show, in like 2013, 14 at the Canterbury Museum. Yeah, like I said, when I met George Shaw from OU and he first told me about his concept and his plan, I was like, dude, that all sounds really nice, and you're like charming and British and all that, but like Christchurch ain't ready, bro. Like, you know, it's a cool idea, but like I'll never see you again. And then he pulled it off, and you know, again, it was another thing where like me and Freak together came up with a concept where we managed to include like a whole bunch of different people. So like early generation Christchurch riders like Lurk, Jungle, and my boy Wins, and some dudes from that area, all the way up to like the young riders of that era, like Droz was just coming up at that stage, our homie Dozer, plus like young Sleeper, Blur, like dudes that were super active illegally. We managed to come up with this concept where we got to bring in probably 20 different dudes, and we just painted a bunch of tags and throw-ups and pieces and stuff in the Canterbury Museum, you know, like, so that in itself, Canterbury Museum having a graffiti / street art exhibition in the first place is crazy, but then also that they bought this concept that we pitched them that basically involved having like all the like vandals for the last 20 years come in and write their names on the side of the, you know, on the inside of the museum walls. Like, yeah, I think that one is one of the craziest. And then like kind of everything since then has been crazy. You know, like, yeah, I didn't see it, like I've said in a few different things, like I didn't see any of this coming, so it's all very surprising to me, you know. It's all very surprising. I'm still stoked, like today, so obviously people will see when they see the pavilion thing that I involved a few local people as well. Like we did the layers of tags, but instead of it just being me, I invited a few like my Auckland friends and some other dudes that I hadn't met before, but have seen like, you know, getting up a lot. Invited them down just to get a bit of local flavour and like authenticity to the thing, because like, you know, like I'm not out tagging the streets anymore, but the thing is that there's not a lot of us that get to this position, so I like to still represent for us while I'm here, because I've said before, I think a lot of these festivals, when they happen, even when they do include someone that traditionally was a graffiti writer, they don't necessarily go to those festivals and represent graffiti. They paint, what do you guys call it, post-graffiti, sort of post-graffiti subject matter, and I think it's a lot of like, I mean, it's dope, and a lot of it, obviously, it's more easily palatable to the sponsors and funders of an event like that. But yeah, I think if I'm fortunate enough to be involved in any event, then I would really like to represent what got me here, and also have that be, you know, at least like a beacon for the other kids that started out like we did. Because a lot of the walls that I see at the big festivals and stuff, like they're stuff that's so good or so far out of the range of like, I had no talent, man. Like the little bit of talent I have now, you know, like has taken a long time to get there, and I think that stuff would actually be demotivational for me. Like I would see that it wouldn't necessarily be the art style that I'm interested in. The only connection I have is that some of it's done with a spray can. So I think I would look at that, and it wouldn't make me feel like I was part of that, or that was something that could be and I don't even mean as a kid, like I feel that way about festivals in the last few years because I'm not in them, and there's not a traditional graffiti element, and it feels like if you don't change your subject matter, if you like, I'm trying not to give examples anymore because the examples always is going to offend somebody, but you know, there's a series of things we all know are being painted, and so a lot of it I think has to do with like just wanting to represent where we came from and be that sort of like a small beacon for the kids that are in the places that we were, to know that you don't necessarily have to switch up what you're doing and you can still keep things true to that graffiti.
With a lot of the festivals, I think there's a lot of diverse range of artists that are being involved, and they're producing a very wide range of work, which is great. But turning our attention back to the graffiti scene, what are your views on its kind of current direction, be it Auckland or Christchurch or any other city?
From where I'm at, like I know Christchurch is tight, like we got it. I watched a bunch of those interviews, so I can't remember who it was, but someone was saying how Christchurch, for the last 5, maybe in the last 10, and for maybe not the last few, because like the other cities, every city seems really active now, like even the smaller ones that you didn't, like Whangarei, Tauranga, like even Dunedin, Invercargill has some active shit happening, you know, like, so there's a bunch of shit happening around that wasn't necessarily happening before. It's super strong, and because there's so much traditional graffiti and bombing and pieces and graffiti and tagging going on, like that side of the scene is super healthy. But then what I'd like to do is to bridge the division between that and the other side of it, the more positive side. Hopefully Pork won't mind me using him as an example, but I was saying to the guys today that I feel like a lot of guys that are rooted and still in the illegal side of graffiti think that anybody that's monetized their one talent, like this is the fucking one thing in the world I've got, motherfuckers, so like I'm not giving it up regardless of what anyone thinks, so it doesn't matter. But I think it holds people back because there's that whole sellout aspect to it. People think they're selling out if they monetize their talent, and like I was saying about having to change up your subject matter and stuff, people don't want to do that because that, you know, I can totally see, like, I mean, even the shit that I paint, there's other shit I could paint bright coloured and say like a piece that said Aroha, or do a canvas with a super colourful stencil of New Zealand on it, you know, and something like that, and it's just going to sell like super easily and like people will love it, but it's not what I want to do. But it doesn't have to be like that, and that's where I was saying about Pork being the example, is that motherfucker's like one of the hardcorest bombers in the country, and he's got a bunch of merch, you know, he's got a bunch of t-shirts, he's got a website, t-shirts, stickers, clothing, you know, different prints and stuff like that. So, and that's all, and they're throw-ups, it's tags, it's throw-ups, it's bombing that he's putting on that clothing, he's monetizing it. I see him put stuff up, it's sold out like super quick. I think they're hardcore illegal graffiti writers or bombers who think that there has to be a division, that making money, like, that shit is crazy, man. It's like a trick. That starving artist narrative is like a trick, because you know who's not starving? The dealers that have been selling artists art for the last 1,000 years. They make money, the artists starve, and then they sell you this narrative that it's romantic, you know, that it's romantic to starve for what you love. How about I do what I love and I get fucking paid? Like, how about that? How about we just ball out like rappers? You know what I mean? Like, how about we actually just make money, brag about how much money we make, you know? But, and don't get me wrong, man, it's not about fucking money, because I've been fucking dirt broke for half my life, you know what I mean? Like, I've finally got like a tiny bit of money in the bank compared to a real person. Like, I could have just worked a job and had a way better life, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not in this for money, like, and I think that's obviously, it's probably proven after a 20 plus year, you know, career that spans being a fucking tag rat to doing stupid big dry murals. But yeah, I think part of that direction, like the actual scene is healthy as fuck, but some of the attitudes maybe not necessarily need to change, but just expand into, and because the thing is, it's easy to sit at home and hate on a street artist without a graffiti background because they're painting palatable subject matter and they're getting paid for it. So it's easy to sit back and hate on that, but they still had to put in work in their own, you know, they had to put in work to get good enough at what they do to be involved in these other things. And I think, yeah, a lot of the time, like, it's, and I was like this when I was young too, man, you know, like a lot of the stuff Mike said, Swim said, I've really identified with, where it was like, yeah, fuck all that shit because it doesn't fit into the box that I think things need to fit into. I still have that thing about street artists who are only street artists and have no graffiti background and who are involved in festivals, you know, like I still can't help but feel like that's our money, you know what I mean? But like so many real graffiti writers or traditional graffiti writers, especially illegal bombers, they're not there trying to get that money. They're just at home hating on people for getting it. So like if you're trying to get yours and you're not getting it, and these people are, then you can hate on it. But if you're just sitting at home on you know, even if you go, you know, going out doing your thing super hard, but you're not necessarily making any moves to go to that, then, you know, you're kind of just hating on it. And I mean, you know, you can ask around in Christchurch. For my generation, I'm the biggest hater. I am king of the haters. Like, the me now is not the me that everyone from Christ, the me you hear talking now is not the me that everyone grew up with in Christchurch, you know, like that's not the me that was running around in the street and set the foundation for all of this to be okay.
I completely agree, man. I mean, it's important not to just be a painter, but I've also kind of been encouraging writers to put on different hats and do different things like documentation, video content, going, you know, into print, you know, making magazines, running workshops, battles, and so on. I think that people need to be brave and not put yourself into those boxes, and, you know, try to tap into some other spaces, and, you know, don't be afraid to monetize from your skills, right?
I think that in itself is like, if you put something in a box and you think everyone has to fit into that box, and everything that's dope has to fit into that box, then you get stuck in that box. And that's part of the reason, like I say, like my technical skill level compared to the bros I started with, Decipher, Freak, and even Yikes, man. Yikes is like next generation from us, but his technical skill level at painting is leagues above mine. And a lot of that is because I fucking kept myself in a box where I was like, everything got to be freehand, everything got to be this, like everything got to be fat cat, you know, everything got to be this. But then, yeah, you break it down, like, if you look at the stuff Decipher does when we do big murals, like he's willing to use all mediums, you know. We'll use like masking tape for huge straight areas, we'll use straight edges to get straight lines on certain bits, we'll use stencils for areas if we have to, we'll brush in areas like that. And you know, I think that there's part of me, there's part of the, and still I'm like, bro, do that freehand, you could do that freehand. He's like I said before, like he likes pushing himself, he likes having all of those things in his wheelhouse, like he likes having them in the bag. Like he comes with the artillery, it's all the artillery. Like I'm bringing like an AK-47 and a fucking handheld pistol, but he's got grenades, he's got a rocket launcher, and he's got like a sniper rifle, dude. He's got all of those things. And I think a lot of the time, like what graffiti and what traditional graffiti, a negative effect it can have on your brain is to put all those things into a box and not be willing to expand. I think I said on my real time, like one of the biggest things I think is that, like, yeah, you should not be afraid to change an opinion that you've had, even if you've had that opinion for 10 years, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you could link that to a lot of things. But
I know all the core members of DTR have obviously emerged from the graffiti world and gone on to do incredible things within and beyond the scene. As a tight-knit crew of people, what do you think is the ingredients of success for maintaining a crew for such a long time?
That's weird. I'm not actually sure, but I part of it is that we've all known each other for a long time, so we've all seen each other basically go from the start to wherever we are now. And yeah, I guess the motivations haven't necessarily changed that much for us. Like the fucking idea that we get to go to work and paint, even if it's like some of the murals that we've been doing lately, I think they're pretty dry. Like the subject matter is like, I would never choose it. It's really hard. Like I turn up and just want to cry because I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to, you know, I'm block fill idiot. Like, here, Nick, take the fat cat, block fill, buff this, yeah, here, do this bit, here, you know, like it's point me in a direction. Like they got to babysit me half the time, you know, and like make sure I'm not fucking it up. But they're the fucking you know what I mean? That's the homies, man. To Decipher, you know, like we'll get a big project and bring us in on it when he doesn't necessarily need to, you know. It's like not like he needs us there. He's the one with the most technical skill. Obviously we shorten the time it takes, but that's a big part of it, you know, that in itself. But then also like that we all also do our own stuff as well, you know, like we do solo jobs. Like I think I probably hold down the graffiti side of things a little bit more for the crew. Like you know, back in the days when I was still bombing a lot, like I was holding down the illegal side of things. So that was part of the reason I didn't think my skill level needed to be that big, you know. Like I was like, well, yeah, they do that, but I do this. Like I climb roofs and I paint ledges and I paint freights and I do this. So that was my contribution to keeping us relevant. And then now that slowed down, I think that's why I noticed now, like, oh shit, everyone got real good. while I was fucking around, you know. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you would call the secret, but part of it is the fact that like we are really good friends, and that especially like in the last couple of years with Decipher being back, like I say, man, like it's kind of that teamwork makes the dream work, man. Like everybody eats, you know what I mean? Like, and we the pay scale, like, so, you know, Decipher will take like a bigger amount of the money, I'll get a smaller amount of money, Jake will be somewhere in the middle, but it all works out, and it's all, you know, like I can't feel hard done by it, because it doesn't need me to be there. That's money that could have been in his pocket for his family. He's willing to you know, to bring me in on that stuff and have us involved, because yeah, dude, we get to fucking hang out. Even if we're painting a mural that's kind of dry and it's not the most exciting thing, the worst day at work for us is us hanging out and doing a kind of like job that's boring, you know what I mean? Like it's the homies hanging out and painting stuff together. And I think I would much rather that. Even if I was technically able to paint all of that sort of stuff by myself, I would still much rather spread the money around, the whole team eats, we're all happy, and you know, we're all getting part of it. At the end of the day, hanging, like, how many people get paid to hang out with their friends, man? Like, and paint, you know, even if it's not the subject matter you want to paint, it's pretty hard to fucking feel too sorry for yourself.
I love the attitude of putting each other on and enabling each other to succeed. I mean, I don't think we do that enough in the scene.
I've said many times to like 1,000 people, like, without Decipher specifically, like, I fucking wouldn't be here. Like, my life wouldn't be what it is now. You know, it would arguably be much worse, almost certainly be much worse without like the influence that Decipher's had over the years, you know, like, and I look back now when he, like I say, brings me in on these things, and like, yeah, I look back and see some of the stuff when we were working together, or him giving me paint to do pieces when I didn't have it, and being like, telling me you could draw that, you're just lazy, you know, like, and it took me a long time to realize that, yeah, you're just being lazy, and, you know, I would say I can't do that, and he's like, you've never tried to do it. I couldn't do it when I first tried to do it, but I can do it now because I've tried to do it, you know, like, you could do it, you just don't. And it's taken me quite a while, you know, it took me a while to be like, oh fuck, that's pretty true.
Totally, man. Big ups to Decipher. He's always been one of my favorites in the graph scene here in New Zealand, so great to know that he's doing what he's doing for the scene, and, you know, for 2 decades, if not longer. But outside of the graffiti and art, I know that you're also an avid collector of action figures. Could you tell us a little bit about that part of your life?
I have what's bordering on, for a normal person, an embarrassingly large collection of figurines and toys and shit like that. Yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff, man. I've got like some I got some like vintage 80s and 90s shit. So that stuff is kind of either figurines that I had as a kid, or the ones that I didn't have as a kid that I wanted. So like, I've got a few specific, like Master of the Universe, He-Man, like an entire full like Ninja Turtles, the original like 88 releases of the 4 Turtles, Shredder, Bebop, Rocksteady, Splinter. I got some Thundercats, some Captain Planet shit. So that shit is like shit that I didn't have as a kid. And then I also have like a pretty large collection of like Marvel Legends figurines. I think, like I was saying to you earlier, I think at one point I might have had like 400 and something. I've sold a few, like 200 or 300 of them, because I'm just running out of space, and I don't want to start being the sort of psycho that just builds them up in tubs and has tubs in the spare room full of figures. Yeah, heaps of stuff, man. I've got like about 30 different Ultimate Warrior figures. I got a bunch of shit from like Terminator 2, NECA figurine collections for the nerds out there, and yeah, a bunch of NECA horror stuff. NECA is a brand, NECA, just in case whatever word I'm saying there sounds sketchy. Oh yeah, and I have a pretty decent, it's weird because like to a regular person what I have is an insane amount, but to a collector it's cute. Like, my collection is worth 1 or 2 statues for a guy that collects statues that cost a few, you know, grands, or automated fucking die-cast metal fucking. There's like a Hulkbuster, you know, the Hulkbuster suit from a thing. So there's a brand called Hot Toys, and one of my like Grail figures is this like $2,500 Hot Toy Hulkbuster that has like light up LED fucking cannon things and like automated moving chest plates and all sorts of fucking nerdy bullshit. And like, I mean, I could technically afford to buy it, I'm not. I'm still a hood rat. I'm not going to spend $2.5 fucking grand on. And actually they've hit aftermarket now. You can't get them retail anymore, so now they're like $3,500, $4,000 or something stupid.
And what's the motivation for collecting all these toys?
I just like them, man. And I think growing up, I didn't grow up like crazy poor, but you know, like I definitely, like I said, like a lot of the 80s and 90s vintage stuff that I have is stuff that I couldn't have as a kid. It's like my cousin's original He-Man and Skeletor from the first wave of releases in 80, the nerds will kill me, but 84, I want to say 85. So some of it's that, you know, the figures of my cousins that I coveted, or like the stuff that, I couldn't have. And then a bunch of it is just cool shit. Honestly, actually, it started out, this graffiti writer we both know was actually racking them and selling them to me really cheap for like 1/3 the retail price. So I started buying them like that, and then I got fucking hooked on them, and now I pay proper retail prices for shit, and it's bullshit.
That's hilarious, man. I mean, but hey, just turning our attention, because we're kind of getting close to the end of this interview, back to, I guess, now, the present and the future. Do you have any kind of upcoming projects or things that you're working on?
Yeah, so there's also a hip-hop event happening down in Dunedin in, I want to say October, that I'll be heading down for, and running a workshop down there, and they're having a graffiti battle as well, so I'll be helping judge that. Yeah, we've got a couple of small projects coming up, and then I'm doing like some, just pissing around doing designs and stuff on Procreate and different prints. But I think the thing I'm looking most forward to is until the end of the year, which is South Sea Spray, man. Like I can't wait to get down there and see who's new on the lineup, like see what artists they've added. Yeah, that definitely. I mean, actually, like Flair that we just had in Christchurch, the Ōtautahi Street Art Festival, they really stepped up. They definitely, for their first year, having this been their first event that they all put together, that team, like that was not as good as South Sea Spray. They've had a couple of years now, and like it's really hard to compete with what happened down in Bluff. Like, I mean, for everyone that was there knows how out of control fucking what an event that was. I remember Charles saying that he's been around the world to different events and in X amount of different countries and different cities and stuff, and he said literally that like South Sea Spray was the best, like looked after, like the extra, just aside from all the walls being handled, actually having all your paint, having all the material you needed, aside from that, like all the extras, that like Southern hospitality is such a real thing. Like I don't think any of us really like expected how crazy that was.
Love it, bro. And shout outs to the southernmost writer in Aotearoa, Big Dio. So kind of in closing, Ikarus, is there any shout outs that you would like to make?
I'm just going to shout out my girlfriend Kayla, and obviously I think I shouted him out a lot during the interview, but first and foremost is always going to be Decipher, man. And aside from that, like there's so many people to shout out, I wouldn't want to risk missing anybody out. So you all know who you are anyway, because there's only a dozen of you that I love.
Awesome, bro. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective with the audience. I really appreciate, obviously, all of your insights and knowledge that you've kind of just brought to the table, and the incredible mahi that you and the crew do down at Ōtautahi. It's pretty, you're setting the bar very high for the rest of the country, and I think Auckland's got a lot to do to catch up with that. Just for our audience, we do have more content on the way, and next month we'll be sitting down with Meeps, who is also an artist from Christchurch, so stoked to have her on board and be able to share her story. So thank you so much for the audience for tuning in. If you like the content, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Peace.